Coral reefs worldwide are currently experiencing something known as a global bleaching event. According to the Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, this is the third event of its kind, and the phenomenon is caused by climate change, among other things. So this global bleaching is caused when coral expels an algae called Zecevic, and this is a symbiotic algae that feeds the coral and also gives it its luxurious color that you see. Okay. Unfortunately, the coral can only stay in contact with the algae under certain temperatures in the water. So when there is a warming of the water, the algae releases a kind of toxic compound, which is why the coral has to expel it.
So this is naturally occurring?
It is naturally occurring, but as I said before, this is the third of these events in recorded history. So the first event happened in 1998 when we experienced a really powerful El Niño, where there was, huge not global warming, but ocean warming at that time. There was a heat wave that killed 16% of coral reefs of around the world. So then there was another El Niño in 2010, which both of those events lasted a little bit under a year. So I think that's one of the biggest concerns that experts are finding, is the fact that not only the frequency of these events are happening, they're happening closer and closer together, but also the fact that it's lasting longer. Because those two lasted under a year. The one that we're experiencing right now started in about 2014 and is expected to last well into 2017. So it's pretty scary.
It's scary because we know that sea levels are definitely, the temperature levels in the oceans are definitely getting warmer. So this is only going to happen more and more, presumably not because of an El Nino, but just because we're warming this planet. So that's very scary. There's a lot of other things that really contribute to the damaging of a lot of coral reefs. For example, there's what's called blast fishing, where a lot of fishermen in their little boats will go out and they'll literally throw dynamite in these shallow reefy areas, and then that explodes and blows up huge chunks of these reefs. It's illegal in a lot of parts of the world, but people still do it because there's no one really out there policing.
Well, and just to give you a little bit of an idea of how important coral reefs are, they only make up 0.1% of the ocean floor, but they provide, food and housing for about 25% of marine life at all. So when these coral reefs die off, obviously that leads to the extinction of many types of marine life. So not to mention the fact that they provide a buffer zone for huge storms for people, but then also provide areas for people to fish, which is the livelihood of about 500 million people throughout the world. So this is a big thing, and for me personally, I think as much as we have the data to tell us about ocean heat rising and just sea levels rising, when you see the picture, when you get that kind of visceral response to seeing these dead coral reefs, I think that affects people in a much different way too, especially since coral reefs are respected for being so beautiful and colorful.
Well, sometimes not even at all. Look at this country. I think like 50% of this country doesn't believe in global warming, and that to me is the saddest thing. This is America, a very progressive country, influential in so many ways. Yet we are so behind so many countries in that respect, and it's just sad. What kind of tangible step do you need other than to just look around and see what's already happening in the world? And it's sad just with that. A lot of things go into that, right? It can be seen as political, economical, a lot of different reasons behind it, but at the same time, it's very sad that an entire political party basically in this country does not believe it. We're the only country in the world. Everybody has their lefts, their rights, but we're the only country in the world where our right still does not believe in global warming. Right. We're behind.
I know. Well, and that's exactly right. You have to look at this. The ocean and the earth is telling us what we need to know, right? So when you see something like this, you're like, oh, they look like skeletons, right? So I think that to me is pretty good visual representation of what's going on. Just so that a couple of other causes, it's not simply global warming, but other things as well, including just the overuse of fossil fuels that end up in the oceans. You also have sunscreen, which was something that I wasn't quite sure of. So sunscreen, as many as 14,000 tons of sunscreen ends up in the ocean yearly around these coral reefs. And it's particularly sunscreen with oxybenzone, which is what protects us from UV rays, but that breaks down the coral as well. So basically, a lot of damage that lowers the pH in the water is what causes problems as well, because then different life forms such as crabs or oysters or coral, that they form hard outer shells, they can't form those shells because of the pH balance is off. So we'll see how it continues to play out. But in the meantime, the coral is dying and no one seems to be talking about it.